Well, it's that time. The Marvel Rivals and PC Optimization Guide. Grab your popcorn because this is going to be like an interactive Netflix documentary. I want to say that you will see Overwatch clips throughout this video because it was originally intended for Overwatch, but everything else in the video applies to Marvel Rivals. Since this is a long process to optimize your PC, I didn't want to redo everything that I've already done for the sake of my sanity, doing it over 10 times to test everything out. This is for educational purposes only. I'm showing you exactly what I did on how to optimize my PC and how you can do the same thing. I'm not responsible or required to help you fix your PC if it has issues or if you lose data such as files or pictures or something that costs money. I am not responsible in any damages, any shape or form. I'll do my best to help you in the comments below, but I recommend you do your own research about every step, program, and setting I use in the video. Please make registry restore points and system restore points. I will show you how to do that in the video, and let's get into it. I'm going to show you how to go from low FPS and high ping to high FPS, low ping, and zero input latency. This will fix PC stutters and eliminate network lag, meaning you'll win more games and get more kills. Okay, so before we begin, here are my PC specs and components I'll be using. Obviously, your specs will be different, but most of the steps will work on your setup. I'll advise at the time what to do if it doesn't apply. I'll be showing you all the tips and tricks I use, from overclocking your PC to hidden registry tweaks to ensure you get the best performance. On the left, I'm using a PCI internet card instead of the onboard internet. And on the right, I'm using extra GPU coolers. I will cover each part I'm using later in the video. For example, I upgraded the stock Logitech mouse switches to the Kailh GM 4.0 red switches, and I'll explain why later. So here's a disclaimer. Settings configuration shown in this video are educational and information purposes only. These are my personal settings I use on my own PC. They may not be suitable for every system. Please see the options when making changes. This is talking about system applications, software downloads, registry etc. Intentionally damage, data loss, memory loss, void warranties, etc. I do not take responsibility for any issues that may arise from following these settings. Always ensure that you have adequate knowledge and backup support for any PC modifications. Thank you. Now a quick word from our sponsors, Raid Shadow Legends. Download the app. Just joking, but you, the viewers, are the sponsors. Look at all the nice comments I'm getting. All the views and subs off the past videos. Only 1% of my viewers are subscribers, so consider dropping a sub and leaving a like. So let's begin. I did a full restore of Windows 10. You can skip the brand new install to keep your data, but since I only game on this PC, I chose to erase all data to start fresh to maximize the performance. If you do the new install, you do need 2 USB flash drives, about 15 gigs each, one for Windows and one for the tweaks pack folder in the description below. Also, if you decide to do the full restore, please download your Ethernet/Wi-Fi drivers, whichever you're using, before you do the full restore and save them to the tweaks folder on the USB drive. The drivers can be found on your motherboard's or internet card's official website. I also recommend to update your BIOS prior to any setting change. We will be using Overwatch, Latencymon, and Waveform for our FPS, latency, and ping benchmarks. We're going to be starting off with optimizing our BIOS. I'm using the Asus TUF Gaming Z690 Plus Wi-Fi D4 motherboard, along with the latest BIOS update. Your BIOS will most likely not look like mine. In the top left corner, you can see my motherboard, CPU, and RAM details along with my BIOS version. Right side has CPU temp, motherboard temp, and CPU core voltage. On the left side, the DRAM status are your RAM sticks. You can see they're in A2 and B2, so slots 2 and 4. This allows you to enable XMP, which is overclocking your RAM sticks. On the storage information, you can see my NVMe SSD. That's the one I'm going to be using, along with my Windows 10 USB stick. As you can see, XMP is enabled. On the bottom left are fan profiles. We're going to be going into that first. And on the middle of the screen, you can see rapid storage technology. I have that turned off. So into the Q fanning control. Once the fan control opens, set all your fans to full speed and apply it. You don't see me do this because mine are already on full speed. On the right side, you can see our boot priorities for our drives. Our top one is the NVMe 1 terabyte and the bottom is the Windows USB stick. And then when you head to the top, resize bar needs to be turned on for overclocking your GPU. And then Aura is the lights on your motherboard. Turn that to off to minimize latency. So we're going to advanced mode and it should start on main. This is just going to show just basic information about your motherboard, etc. So we don't really need to do anything there. We're going to exit out of that. And then we're going to go to the exit tab. And then it's going to show different settings there. We don't need to do that yet. We don't really need to be in the exit tab right now, so we're going to go head over to tools. The first one, Asus Easy Flash Utility 3, that's for updating your BIOS. As you can go scroll down, the Asus Secure, this is for erasing your drive completely, which we're going to do. That's the NVMe drive. So as you can see, our NVMe was on that list there. This is just showing that it was compatible to securely erase all the data and content on the drive. That way it's basically factory brand new. I recommend you do this if you are doing the full restore. Just erase the whole thing and then it'll be, ready to go, brand new. After you click OK, it's going to delete everything on your SSD and it will restart your PC. So don't turn off your PC or unplug it or anything like that. Just let it do its thing. It's going to take about a minute and then it will automatically reboot. And then you want to spam the delete key so you can go back into the BIOS. Now that BIOS is loaded back up, you can see our boot priority has changed. It only shows the Windows 10 USB stick, which is good. Head over back to advanced mode, go to tool, setup animator is disabled. ASUS user profile. These are the profiles I've made prior to this video for all my settings on my motherboard. I recommend you save the settings after you complete this. This shows our RAM details. This is not really anything we need to look over, but this is just me just showing you guys. Exit out of that. ASUS Armory Crate, disable that. My ASUS, disable that as well. Those are just like the apps that ASUS installs when you boot the computer. We do not want those. CSM, you want to disable that. Secure boot, I have it selected to other OS and custom boot mode. Let's back out of that. And boot configuration, we're going to click into this, and then fast boot, we're going to disable that and then back out. Now our boot option will just show our, our Windows 10 USB stick, which is fine. Then we're going to go to monitor. Now you can head down to Q fan configuration. This is just going over the fan speeds again. Just set everything to full speed. You can see the auto detect for the AOI pump Q fan control, as well as the CPU fan control. Just leave those on auto detect. But where it says the profile, just set it to full speed. As you can see here, we went to another drop down menu and all of them are full speed. So everything looks good. We're going to go out, go to advanced, and we're going to start from top to bottom. And as we click into here, platform MISC configuration, set all of those to disabled. These are all power saving features. We're going to just disable all of them. You can pause the video, rewatch it, and just read the ones that are here and disable all of them. Then we're going to go back out. We're going to CPU configuration. This is going to show, just the details of your CPU. And then we're going to scroll down. Hardware prefetcher and adjacent cache line prefetch, have those enabled. So for Intel VMX virtualization technology, disable that. Per P-core control and E-core control, disable both of those. Active performance cores, make sure that is selected for all. Active efficient cores, 0. Hyperthreading, you're going to have to do research on that to see if your CPU should have that on or off, but most cases it's disabled. Total memory encryption, disabled. Click into CPU power management. And we're going to go to boot performance first, select turbo performance, Intel speed step and speed shift, disable both of those. Turbo mode enabled to allow overclocking, and acoustic noise mitigation settings, put that disabled. CPU C states and dual TUA boost, both disabled. Thermal monitor needs to be enabled for turbo mode to allow overclocking. Now we're going to get back out of that and go to System Agent SA configuration. VTD disabled. Memory remap needs to be enabled. Next, we're going to graphics configuration. Primary display is going to be auto. iGPU multi-monitor. This is the display port out of your motherboard. I do not use a monitor through my motherboard, so I'm going to disable that. VMD controller is going to be disabled as well. In this PCI Express configuration, that is my NVMe link speed and my graphics card link speed. Select the highest speed possible, Gen 4 and Gen 5 for me. Let's get out of that and go to PCH configuration, PCI Express configuration, and just go through each and every one of these and select the highest gen possible. As you can see, they are Gen 3 and Gen 4s. And then I'm going to go back out of this, go to storage configuration now. SATA controllers, I am not using a SATA drive, so if you are, enable that. If you're using an NVMe, then you are going to disable this. But if you're using any other ones that are connected by SATA ports, you're going to have to enable them. Now down to PCH FW configuration. This one always stays enabled for me, but I try to disable it every time to go to BIOS. Thermal configuration, Intel Dynamic Tuning Technology. disable that. Let's back out of that and go to Thunderbolt configurations, PCI over USB 4 and discrete Thunderbolt support, disable both of those. For trusted computing, disable both of those. Back out, PCI subsystem settings, 4G decoding and resize bar, enable those. SR-IOV support, disable that. Down to USB configuration, legacy and XHCI handoff, disable both of those. These are your individual USB ports. You can keep all those enabled or disable the ones you do not use. Back out of that, the network stack, disable that. NVMe configuration, let's open that up. It's just going to show my NVMe Samsung drive. Let's back out of that. There's no settings in there. Hard drive and SSD, since I do not have one, I do not know the settings for this, but I'm sure you can find it online, but I don't think there's anything for that specific setting. APM configuration, just make sure all those are turned off. Down to onboard devices. So here's where it's going to get tricky. You're going to keep it on auto or the max speed. 8x8 is not max speed. You're going to have to keep it at X16. So since X16 is auto for me, I'm going to keep it auto. HD audio, I'm going to keep that enabled because I have them plugged into the audio ports on the back of my motherboard. If you're using the Ethernet port on the back of your motherboard, keep Intel LAN on. If you're using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, keep connectivity mode on as well. USB power delivery and Wi-Fi 6, turn all those off. As you can see, all mine are disabled besides HD audio. LED lighting, URA is off. M2 configuration is PCIe if you're using an NVMe drive. The C power mode is auto, GNA device disabled, and serial port is disabled as well. Let's back out of that. And we are done with the advanced tab. So now we are going to be getting into AI Tweaker, which will cover CPU overclocking as well as RAM overclocking. The settings I'm showing you are not for your RAM and are not for your CPU. You will need to do your own research on this. The settings I'm showing you are not for your system. They're only for mine or the specific parts I have. If you have them, you will still need to do your own benchmarks because it depends on your temperatures and your PC. I'm just going to show you my settings and just kind of give you an idea of what I'm running. So at the top of the screen, you can see I have 5,000 megahertz for my CPU. That is overclocked. It's normally 3.6. For my RAM, it starts at 3600, but it's actually overclocked to 4600. And on my performance preferences, I have ASUS Advanced Overclock Profile, and then I have it set to XMP1. There's XMP2 and some other settings. I would just recommend XMP1. And when it goes down, it says Intel Adaptive Boost Technology. I have that disabled. ASUS Multi-Core Enhancement. This will raise temperatures, but I found that it sheds off 0.03 of latency on my PC. So I have it enabled. The SVID behavior, I have it best case scenario, BCLK frequency, auto, memory controller frequency, auto as well. Now I'm going to be going on to more of the other settings that I have and play the video. Now I'm going to scroll down and freeze it again to show you my settings. The next setting is DRAM frequency. I'm going to set that to 3600 megahertz. That is the number on the front of my RAM stick. Next is OC Tuner, going to keep current settings for that. Performance core ratio, sync all cores together. So I have 8 cores on my processor. All 8 cores are going to be synced to the number below, which is 50, which is 5.0 gigahertz. So that is the overclock number. Now we're going to go into these and show you the settings that I have. As you can see, specific performance core, we have them all auto. The next one, related controls, all auto. Scroll down a little bit. Ring down bin, I disabled that. Scroll down. DRAM voltage is going to be undervolted to 1.5. My CPU core voltage is going to be 1.22500 under manual mode. I'm going to scroll back up top and I'm going to go to CPU power management and scroll all the way down. I'm going to disable IASEP and SASEP. I'm going to scroll back up. Get out of CPU power management. CPU thermal velocity boost, I don't do anything in there. Back up to DRAM timing controls, and this is where I'm going to freeze it again. So now that we're in DRAM timing control, I actually didn't set this up myself. I had my friend Leaf Green, he's in my Twitch and Discord community. He actually set this up for me and he charges for the service. But to put it into basics is this is a night and day difference. This is overclocking your RAM to the maximum potential. XMP enabled is basically a soft overclock. This pushes it even further and is very recommended, and a lot of pros do it to get the best FPS and the lowest latency. The number you want to get down is the CAS latency. Mine's originally 18, but we were able to get it down to 14. There's many factors when it comes into this, such as temperatures on your RAM, how fast your RAM is, etc. But I'm just going to kind of go through what I have and just show you my settings. But I definitely recommend you go onto YouTube and watch more RAM overclocking videos that specifically cover timing, because there's so many variables that come into play, such as the numbers on the back of your RAM stick, the factory which the memory chips inside the RAM are made. For example, mine is Micron E die, there is Samsung B die, and other dies or letter dies out there. So it just depends on your specific model, your megahertz, the dies inside of it, and the numbers on the back of your RAM all play a factor into it. So these are just basic settings. I'm just showing you what I have, and then we're just going to exit out of all of this and go back into the main menu. I do recommend you take pictures of all the settings that you changed on your motherboard and then save it as a profile in the BIOS, so that way if you need to revert back to it, you can, it'll save it there. Now we're going to just save and exit, so all the settings are applied. It's going to take a few minutes for this to reboot, but I'm going to fast forward and show you the next step. Now that the Windows installer loaded up, we are going into step 1, which is Windows 10 installation as well as Revy OS installation. Revy OS is a custom OS built on Windows 10. So let's get into Windows 10 first. We're just going to install it right away. The activation code or product key is already tied to my motherboard, so I'm just going to click I don't have a motherboard key. I select Windows 10 Home. Pro has a few more services, so it's going to have more latency. I'm going to accept the details and do custom install Windows only. There's my 1TB Samsung Pro SSD NVMe. I'm going to select that and click next. And I'm going to speed this up. It's just going to wait till this installs, and it's going to restart, and then it's going to go to Cortana. I'm going to turn off Cortana's voice while this loads up. And just gonna keep going through this. I'm gonna select United States. If you live somewhere else, select where you're located. And then I'm going to click yes. Skip the keyboard layout. I don't have any internet connection connected. I'm gonna click I don't have internet. Continue with limited setup. We do not need this. I'm gonna name my PC XLEK. I'm just gonna click next because I do not want a password. And then I'm going to turn all these settings off. You do not want location, diagnostic data, tailored experiences, find my device, inking and typing, etc. Turn that off. Let Cortana help you get things done. Not now. And it's just going to go through this kind of, the initial loading. I fast forwarded this so you don't have to wait through that. And now we are on the front page of Windows. You do not need to do this part. This is Latencymon. It monitors the DPC latency on your PC, and you press the play button in the top left and you click stats and you scroll down and let it load, and you can see the average measured interrupt to DPC latency. The bottom one is 3.8. That is very bad. You want it 0.5 or below. The lower you can get it, the better it is. The lower your latency. So again, this is just to show you what it is before, and then let's get into it. So now open up the tweak pack I included on Google Drive, whether it be through your USB stick or you downloaded it to your desktop because you didn't do the full restore. We're going to start off with number 1. Some of these names will change because I did do some spelling typos, but you'll get the point. We open up the number 1 and we're going to run AME Wizard Beta as administrator. Now right here you can see Revy OS in the top left. I already did this off camera, and so I accidentally left this out, but you're supposed to drag and drop the Revy OS file into the Wizard Beta program for it to recognize it. This is what the file looks like. You can download it through the Revy OS official website as well. Next, you can see that Revy OS loaded up. It says disable security, run that, open Windows security and disable all 4 of those. and then it'll have a green check mark. Exit out of that. Click next. When it's analyzing the installation, it might ask you to update Windows on Windows Update in the bottom left search. So you'll have to update Windows and then keep checking the playbook, but mine didn't need an update. Click accept and next to accept the license agreement. Next, it'll ask you to configure. Again, I chose none because I use Google Chrome. Disable Defender. Next, remove all 3 of those. Remove all of those. Apply all of those. Next, you want to select all of these as well, and then click OK. Then the configuration is done. Click OK again, and it's going to apply the playbook. This might take a while. Your screen might go black, etc. Just let it finish installing, and then we will go on to the next step of what to do. When it's done applying the playbook, there's going to be a Revy OS tool on the desktop. Click into that. Now you're going to go to settings in the bottom left and show experimental tweaks and turn it to dark mode if it didn't. So on the next step, security, Windows Defender, user account control, and Spectre and meltdown mitigation are all supposed to be off. I left the bottom 2 on by accident, so please switch those off. Usability, Windows notification, completely toggle Windows notifications, turn that on. Legacy notification balloons on. Inking and personalization off. Disable caps key off. Swipe on. Superfetch, if you're using a hard drive, keep it on, but since we're using an NVMe SSD, keep it off. Intel TSX on. Full screen optimizations on. Next is background apps, select off for that one. Disable the ACPI C2 and C3 states, turn that to on. Disable last access time on. Disable 8.3 naming, turn that to on. Increase the limit page pool memory on. Windows updates, only the top one should be on. Miscellaneous, hibernate off. Network GPU monitoring off, and MPO, depending on your GPU, turn it on or off. Okay, now that we're done with step 1, we're on to step 2, which is going to make a restore point, edit some services and Microsoft Edge. Okay, open the tweak pack, then go to number 2, restore point, then step 1, and click into restore point. Go to configure, turn on system protection. On the bottom where it says max usage, have that about 15 gigs or so, and then apply, and then okay. And then right below configure, click create, and just name it whatever you want. Just name it something so whenever you go back, if you need to restore, it's before all the tweaks that are applied. Click create, wait for that to create the restore point, and that's it for making a restore point. Go to the top right, click remote, uncheck that, go to advanced, and then go down to performance, click on settings, and click for adjust for best performance. So all of those are unticked, and then go to the bottom right and click apply. So now that you're done here, just go back to the tweak pack folder, go to step 2 and click into Chris Titus. This is going to open up a notepad. You're going to copy and then open up your search command and then type in PowerShell, run it as administrator, and paste that into there and click enter. It's going to take a little bit and then it's going to pull up the screen. So Chris Titus made this script for anyone to use. I recommend you go check him out on YouTube. He makes a lot of great content. But for the sake of this video, we're only going to be covering the settings that I'm using under the tweaks tab at the top. Just copy the settings I have on the screen and click run tweaks at the bottom left of the screen. Once you click the run tweaks button, it will pull up PowerShell again and run the tweaks until it says finished at the bottom. It might take a few minutes, so just wait patiently and I'll show you what to do next. Up in the middle of the screen, as you can see, tweaks are finished. Exit out of that, exit out of the notepad, go back to the tweak and go to step number 3 and run this as administrator. It might restart your PC, but just let it finish and then restart your PC, and we'll continue on to step 3, which is going to be talking about drivers. So now we're going to go back to the tweaks pack folder and go to step 3. We're going to see 3 different things in here. One's Latencymon, one's Chrome. Those, you can install those if you'd like, but we're going to go into Snappy Drivers and right click SDI64, run it as administrator, allow access. And then these are all the drivers your PC is sensing right now that it needs. Doesn't mean we need to get them all, but we are going to go scroll to the bottom. This is your GPU driver. We don't want that. That is your Realtek motherboard audio drivers. We do not want that. And the Nvidia high definition, we do not want that either. The monitor, I'm going to install those. And then these are all part of your motherboard. There's different, I don't really know what they're called, but they're services or to help the motherboard interact with other parts. So we're just going to go and just select all these and ensure we just make sure everything is running efficiently. So at the top right, we're going to click install, and let's just speed this up. Just wait till this is finished and I'll tell you what to do. So now that the drivers are all finished installing, click the flashing button and restart your PC. Now we're going on to step 4. So once your PC is booted, go into our tweaks pack again, go to step 4, which is going to be our internet. And in step 1 is going to show the Marvel drivers. Do not install those. Those are for me. You can read the notepad, but this is where you're supposed to install your motherboard or internet drivers so you can reinstall them later on. I'm not going to show that step because I already did it. Go to step 2. We're going to go to buffer bloat. This is going to test your ping and kind of like where your internet is getting hung up on. And as you can see, I'm going to speed this up. It's going to say in the top left, we got a grade C. We only care about the right number, really. This is where your hit registration. So if you're shooting a shot and you clearly hit it and it doesn't register, this is where we need to lower it so we can get an A+ rating or an A rating. Go back out, go to step 3, and we're going to open up command, run as an administrator, and then type in ipconfig. Now, once we type in ipconfig, it's going to show IPv4 address, subnet mask, and default gateway. Go to the bottom right on your internet, right click into that, go to change adapter settings, Ethernet, properties, click on Internet Protocol version 4, IPv4, properties, use the following address, use the following DNS server, and then we are going to set a static IP address. So we're going to type in the first IPv4 address, so 192.168.0, and I'm going to put, instead of 86, I'm going to put 2. Again, it can be any number past, I would say, just 2. Subnet mask will be the same, and default gateway will also be the same. So now we're on to DNS server addresses. So go back to command prompt and type in ping and then a DNS server. If you're in the USA, 1.1.1 and 1.001. As you can see here, I'm about to do it the second time. As you can see on the time, the average, you can see the average is 2 milliseconds. So there's other ones out there like the Google DNS. There's just many different companies that offer a DNS server that you can connect to. So I recommend you do your research there and just ping the best DNS server or the fastest DNS server. So I've known that 1.0.0.1 is usually the fastest for me. And then I'm just going to click OK at the bottom, close out of that, close out of command prompt. And then I'm going to reopen Ethernet network again, properties. Going to uncheck everything besides IPv4. So that's the only thing that's ticked. And then I'm going to click OK, then reopen it, and everything's stuck. Go back to IPv4, click properties, click advanced, automatic metric, untick that, put 1, go to DNS, untick that, go to the bottom, untick that, go to wins, untick this, go to the bottom, disable that, click OK, OK, close out of that again, go back up, go to properties, click on IPv4 and click configure, continue, go to power management, uncheck both of those, close out of it, go back into it, configure again, go to advanced, and here you want to disable as much as you can. If you don't see the setting on my screen, I recommend you do some research on it and just ensure that you should disable it. So as you can see, I'm disabling everything. Flow control disabled, internet moderation disabled, internet moderation rate disabled, IPv checksum offload disabled, jumbo packet disabled, offload, 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 all 3 disabled. Don't worry about that. Disabled. So now that we're in RSS queues, we're going to maximize the number there. So if you have 8, put 8. If you have 4, put 4. Just put the maximum amount you have. Onto NDIS QoS, disable that. NS offload, disable that. Priority in VLAN. Again, some people say packet priority enabled only, or VLAN as well. I disable both. Receive buffers. So type 9,000. And if it gives you this error, it will tell you the maximum amount of our of receive buffers. So mine's 4096 for this specific value. So I put 9,000 to error it out to see what my max is, and I type in 4096. Receive side scaling. This one's hit or miss. A lot of people say enable it. I keep it. You know, I go between disabled and enabled. It just it depends on my internet that day. Go here, disable that. Segment coalescing. Disable speed and duplex. I would put it to the maximum amount. If it doesn't work, keep switching it down and down and down until you find the sweet spot. Again, if I put on 10 gigs, my card is 10 gigs, but my actual internet is only 1 gig, so it'll actually error out. So again, just put, I would say auto negotiation. Now just disable everything from the TCP, UDP, checksum offload. Transit buffers, do the same thing, type 9,000. If you don't get the error, type a higher number. As you can see, my highest amount is 8184. I type that in, VLAN ID 0, and all these wake on link, power off, turn them to disabled. These are just power saving features that we do not need. And then click OK. It's going to go down the list, just make sure everything's stuck to disabled or to the settings I wanted. And everything looks good. So now we're going to click OK. It's going to turn off your internet for a little bit while it applies the settings. So just wait. And again, if your internet doesn't come back on, go back and then change the speed link. The speed one will actually mess it up to keep the internet off. So exit out of that. Click Ethernet, click network, and then you can kind of see if your static IP stuck. As you can see there, number 2 worked. The DNS stuck. Exit out of that. You can exit out of this as well. Click back. We're going to go to step 4, TCP Optimizer. Right click as administrator, wait for it to load. Okay, we're going to go to the bottom right and click custom. First thing we're going to do is go to the top, connection speed, and swipe it all the way to the right. Ensure that your adapter is selected in the middle. On the right side, MTU 1500, TCP window auto tuning, disable that. Windows scaling heuristics, disable that. I select DC TCP, but select CTCP right above that. That is the correct setting. For receive side scaling, I actually disable this, click enabled. And for the bottom one, disable that one. Time to live is 64. ECN capability, disable that. Checksum offloading, disable that. TCP chimney offload disabled. The bottom 2, disable both of those as well. Go to the top, advanced settings, and just copy the settings that I have listed here. 10, local priority 4, host priority 5, DNS priority 6, net priority 7. Maxin retransmissions 2, non-SAC RTT resilience, disable that. Initial RTO 2000, min RTO 300, best non-effort 0, QLS do not NEL, optimal 1. For network throttling, disable this. System responsiveness, gaming 0, and then do disabled, enabled, disabled. Okay, now for network memory allocation, for large system cache, put enabled 1. For size below it, you'll see it is blank. I accidentally forgot to select it, but put it optimal. Dynamic port allocation, max user port, put 65534 or 65535, which is the max. TCP timed wait delay, you can hover over that. It says the recommended is 30. You can put 30 or 32. Either one will work. After that, you're going to click apply changes at the bottom, then click OK, and it'll ask you to restart your PC, which you should restart it. And then we'll go on to the next step. Now that we're done with TCP Optimizer, we're going to go to step 5, and we cannot open this properly on screen. So I'm going to show you how to do it the other way if it messes up for you. We're going to open it in a notepad. Go to the bottom left of the screen and type in PowerShell and run PowerShell as administrator. Then we're going to copy everything in the notepad. Once we have everything copied, we're going to paste it in PowerShell, and then it's going to run its script, and then it's going to open this up. Make sure you select your adapter up the top, and then just follow the settings I show on the screen. I'll freeze the frame, just copy everything, and then click apply all at the top in the green. After you've clicked apply, you can exit out of that as well as the PowerShell and go back and go into step 6, which is going to be buffer bloat again. Start the test. So after the test, we definitely seen an upgrade. It's a grade A now instead of a C. Our low latency gaming explanation point is gone, and our upload active is 2. Originally it was 143, so we've definitely big improvement here. We're going to exit out of that, and we are done with the internet settings. So now we're on to step 5, GPU drivers and overclocking your graphics card. So I'm using an Nvidia graphics card, and I do not own or use an AMD Radeon graphics card. You'll need to watch videos on YouTube on how to use settings around an AMD Radeon graphics card, but I still also recommend you watch my settings so you can copy the AMD Radeon version to your setup. But if you're on Nvidia like me, you're fine, just keep watching and you'll see. So I went to the tweaks pack, to the GPU drivers, step 1, and I clicked the link to go to the Nvidia drivers page to get the latest driver for my MSI 3090 graphics card. And as you can see here, I selected the GeForce RTX 30 series, which then allows me to select the RTX 3090. And I am running Windows 10 at 64-bit, so I will find the drivers and show you what's next. After we click find, we will be presented with the game ready driver. We do not need the Nvidia Studio driver below, but just click get driver, and then download, and then wait for it to download, and that'll take a few minutes. So now when the Nvidia driver is done downloading, go to your downloads folder and cut and paste the driver into the tweak pack like I do on screen, just so everything is organized. Now that we copied and pasted it to step number 3, we're going to go back to step number 2, which is DDU, which is going to uninstall your display drivers currently. So first go down to the bottom right, open up your internet adapter settings like I do on screen, and disable them. So we just turned off the internet. Next, you want to hold down the shift button and go down to the bottom left taskbar and restart your PC. Then you'll get greeted with a screen like this. You want to go into troubleshooting or advanced options, depending on the screen you get. Then you want to look for startup settings, and then you want to restart your PC to enter safe mode. You might have to click number 4. If you click number 4, then you'll be entering safe mode. Once you're in safe mode, the desktop background will be black and the 4 corners of your screen will say safe mode. Let's go back into the tweak folder, go to step 5 for GPU drivers, then step 2 to install display driver uninstaller. Once that's installed, the program should open up right away. Once it's open, just click OK, and then select remove physics, and then close out of it because we're not running AMD. Now select device type, select GPU, and then Nvidia below that, and click the top left, clean, and restart. So now it's going to remove all the GPU drivers for your graphics card and clean up the system. The reason why we unplugged your internet is that so it doesn't auto install the drivers on reboot. So just let it uninstall everything, let it do its restore, and then we'll continue on to the next step. So now that the PC restarted and you're back on your desktop, open the tweaks pack again, go to GPU drivers, then step 3, and install NV clean install by running it as an administrator. Check use driver files on disk, then browse for the driver installer. Locate the drivers you installed earlier and select them, then click next. Then we're going to see all these options here. I am doing the full debloated version. I'm only selecting the required one at the top. Anything else just adds latency. If you need Shadow Play or GeForce Experience, I recommend you select only those, but I do not know if you need to select another one in order for those to work. I would recommend you watch this on a specific video on YouTube and get more information about that. Since I only need the one required one at the top, I'm just going to click next and let it unpack the installer. So just give it a little bit, and then once it's finished, I'll show you what to do. So now that the unpacking has finished, we are going to look at the installation tweaks. You want to start off by checking disabled. So now we're going to check mark the first one, the second one, the third one, not the fourth one. Do not enable DLSS, disable MPO, disable Ancel, show expert tweaks, disable driver telemetry, and then disable Nvidia HD audio device sleep timer, enable message signaling interrupts specific processors, and then select your last processor. Interrupt priority is high. Disable HDCP, use method compatible with easy anti-cheat, and select the bottom one as well. You do not want to check disable Nvidia container. That will break the control panel later on, and then click next. Now once it's finished, click the first one where it says install. Once you click that, it will open up the Nvidia installer and installing the graphics drivers that are debloated. It should take around a few minutes, so just give it some time, and then this is what it should look like. So now when it's finished, it'll just say finished, and you can just exit out of that. Now we're going to go back to the tweak pack, step 4, Nvidia Profile Inspector, run that as administrator, and the program should look like this. So this program might look intimidating, but don't worry, and just go to the top, click import profiles, and then select the one I included in the tweak pack. Click open, click OK. And then you can scroll down a little bit until you get to the memory section. Once you scroll down, you should see memory allocation on the left side. Click into that, and you should have it on either moderate or aggressive. Do not use as needed. Then after you select that, click apply changes and exit out of that. Next, we're going to right click on the desktop and click Nvidia control panel, agree and continue. Go up to desktop there, click into that, allow, apply, then click yes. On the left hand side, we're going to go up to 3D settings and click adjust. Click the third option, slide it all the way to the left, performance, apply. Wait a few seconds, go to manage 3D settings. A lot of these settings were already changed whenever we did the Nvidia inspector on the step prior. And then you can select these two. These should not be on, select them to off. And for the shader cache size, I have it set to 10 gig, but you can also select unlimited. It's whatever you prefer. You can just scroll up, make sure all your settings are the same. Scroll back down, click apply. Then go to physics. We don't need that. Down to display. So mine's a 240 Hertz monitor. You do not want to be using Ultra HD. You want to scroll down where it says PC and pick your resolution under PC. So mine's 1920 by 1080 and then 240 Hertz. Apply. Then click yes to apply the changes. Next, scroll down a little bit. Use Nvidia color. Make sure it's full. Apply. Next, you want to adjust the desktop color. You want to adjust the digital vibrance to ensure that some of the colors pop out at you. I'm colorblind, so this helps a lot. Rotate display, we don't need that. HDCP audio, don't need that. Digital sound, don't need that. Go to no scaling, apply. Next, we're gonna go down to there and the video settings, full, yes. We don't need that. And then turn that off, apply, and then you can exit out of that. So now we're done with the control panel. Exit out, go to step 5. Now we're going to be installing both of these. Now, but before we install both of those, go to the bottom right and turn your Ethernet adapter back on. So enable it so we get internet connectivity. Once it's connected, exit out of that, exit out of that, go back into step 5. First, we're going to install MSI Combuster. So run that as administrator, then just click next, next, and then you don't need a quick icon and install. Then click next, then finish, and then it should launch. And this is what it looks like. There might be a new version, but it doesn't matter. Let's push it over to the left. Next, we're going to install MSI Afterburner. Uncheck Norton for gamers. Install. Okay. Next. I agree. Next. Untick Rivatuner. Next, next. Install. Once it's installed, you'll untick README and then click finish and it should pop up. On the left, we have MSI Combuster for benchmarking our system. On the right, MSI Afterburner for overclocking. The OC scanner right there is to test to see how far you can push your system. It's pretty good, but there's manual overclocking, which I'm going to do. So as you can see here, we have fan. We want to select it all the way to the right. Click this A, turn our fan speed all the way up, then click check mark. So now your fans will be louder for your GPU, but that will allow it to cool them consistently and at their max capacity. Now we're going to be looking at the GPU and memory clock. I already kind of know mine, but you're supposed to up them by a little bit, and then benchmark if it's stable. I already kind of know my settings, so I'm just kind of giving you an example. You put a couple numbers there and it changes at the top. As you can see, the GPU and memory, it went up to 1785 and then 10,001. And then you click the check mark, and then I saved it to as a profile, just in case I need to come back to it on the right side. And then I make sure that the Windows icon is blue up there. Now onto Combuster. I am going to run a full screen benchmark, and this is what it looks like. So now that we're in MSI Combuster, this is a GPU benchmarking tool. Be aware of the GPU temperature in the bottom left, because if it spikes too high, that means it can damage your card. This also tests to see how stable your system is, because it might freeze during this. And if it does freeze, then the overclocking method you put does not work, or it's unstable, and you'll have to draw back the numbers a little bit for the GPU core and memory core clock rate. So as you can see, you run this for about 15-20 minutes or so, and just monitor it, make sure it's not overheating or freezing. But this is kind of like what I've already tested this, so I'm not going to go more into this. I do recommend you watch more YouTube videos that are specialized on overclocking your system with these softwares. That way you can achieve the max potential. And I'll put it on the screen one last time, my settings, and then you guys can do your own research on that. So we're going to be going back to step 6, open up the Hags text file, and these are two applications. We're going to go locate, go to the start, type in game mode. Game mode will pop up, turn that off. Graphics settings, make sure that's turned off. And there's Explorer already on high performance. So that is Explorer. Click browse, local disk C, top right, type in dwm.exe, click search, and you do the same thing for the Explorer. So I just showed that off camera, but dwm.exe, this is loading right now, so just give it a little bit. And once it pops up, it'll say system 32 right there, not the other ones. Apply that, options, high performance. There you go. You can click browse again to go look for game files such as Overwatch, which I'm going to show you right now. Local disk C. We can add BattleNet as well. So you just click it, add, options, high performance. Go back in, you can click the other one, add, options, high performance. And I recommend you do this to all your games or all the programs you're using. It just depends on if you need high performance or not. There's the Overwatch launcher, high performance, browse again. Then we go into retail, there's another Overwatch, add, high performance, save, and that's about it. So you can just exit out of all this, and then we are done with the GPU drivers and overclocking. Now on to step 6. We're going to be talking about power settings. This is the fun area. This is where things get way better. So under power settings, go to step 1. Once the text file opens, you're going to see a little line of command there. So now we're going to go type in CMD, open up command prompt, run it as administrator. Once that's opened, we're going to go back to the tweak pack, and where it says XLEK power settings, we're going to cut it and put it in our local C drive and paste it in this location. Then go back to the text file, copy that, and paste it into here. And then it will say imported power scheme successfully. So you have to make sure that the power setting that you copied and pasted is in your C drive exactly where it's at. So that way it can sense it when you do the command prompt. Go back to the tweak pack, power settings, step 2. And then we're going to copy the first one and paste that into command. And it's going to show all the power options available on your PC right now. And you can see mine at the bottom, and the asterisk is not by it, so that means it's not selected. Go to search, type in power, go to power and sleep settings, the top right, click that, and the drop down menu, and mine will be right there. Click that, Please read the description below. Applying this power setting will increase your FPS, lower your system latency, and should make your system more stable, but please monitor and check your CPU, GPU, and RAM temperatures while using this power setting, because this will raise the usage mainly for your CPU, and it will increase the temperatures and electricity costs for you. Please benchmark these settings with what safe temperatures are for your system. I also recommend that you have a very good CPU cooler. That would help out tremendously. Once you've selected my power plan, you can exit out of that and then go back into command prompt and then type that command again. And you can see the asterisk is next to mine, which means the power setting is selected. Next, go back to the notepad and copy and paste the second line, including the space after delete. Do not copy GUID. We're going to be copying the GUIDs of the power schemes that we are not using. So the first one is balanced. Make sure it's that line in the notepad followed by the GUID, then click enter after each one. So we're going to be deleting all 4 of the power settings we're not using, which are balanced, revision, high performance, and power saver. After we have all 4 deleted, we're going to copy this command and paste it again, click enter, and then it's just going to show we have our power plan selected. And that'll be it. So you can exit out of command, go into step 3, right click power settings, and run as administrator. Okay, so you're not going to really change any settings here. So since you imported the power settings prior to this area, we just want to make sure that when you're clicking down on it, it says XLEK power plan, as you can see there at the bottom. That's all you need to do, and then you can just get out of it. I just want to make sure that the power settings did stick with when you initially imported it into your power settings plan. Just like that. Okay? Now we're moving on to step 6, updating your motherboard drivers. Earlier, we used Snappy Driver Installer to grab the necessary drivers, but to ensure you're running the latest versions, it's a good idea to visit your motherboard manufacturer's website. Look up your specific model and check if there are any updated drivers that need to be installed. This is also where you can find the BIOS updates, conveniently located in the same section. Let me walk you through the installation process to keep everything up to date and running smoothly. Usually the drivers will need to be extracted, so extract them, open the folder, and find the .exe file, run it as an administrator to install the drivers, and that's it. Now we're going to be going on to step 8, which we will be talking about NVMe settings. I have the Samsung 990 Pro 1TB NVMe. Most likely you'll have a different storage device. If you have a hard drive, I do recommend you upgrade to at least an SSD, but if you want the best performance, go with a fast NVMe SSD. Okay, now we're going on to step 9, telemetry. This is like Windows snooping or other services in the background that are just running, which don't need to be ran. So there's going to be 4 options here. We're going to start with Windows, or the ultimate Windows tweaker. We're going to click into that folder and then run it as administrator. So I am not going to do a voiceover with this because there are a lot of different things to select, but I do recommend that you create another system restore point prior to making any of these changes, just in case something messes up and you need to revert it back. But we're going to first start with the file checker utility and let that run. It's going to take a few minutes. Once you're out of that, we're going to get into the settings that you need to check off and deselect and such. And I'm not going to voice over that. So just, watch it, all the settings I put, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, now that the checker utility has finished, just exit out of that and then follow the on-screen selections that I make. And then we will go on to the next program. Okay, for these next two programs, this one and the next one, make sure your microphone is turned on. In this program you're seeing right here, you have to switch it to red to keep it on. If you switch it to green, it's going to turn it off. I had an issue where I switched it off, green, and then I couldn't use my microphone. So just make sure you turn it to red and any of the other settings that you need, right? So if you use your camera, then keep it to red so you use it on your PC. And same with when it goes to the next program, you'll see what I do there. Okay, for this, I accidentally turned off microphone. Just make sure you have it turned on because it will not work in game or for your PC. Just make sure it's selected on. Same with your webcam if you use a webcam. So here we're going to be uninstalling Windows apps, Windows components. I don't use majority of the stuff that Windows offers, so I'm just going to uninstall it. You might use some of these things, so I would recommend you watch a video outside of this for this specific program before you do anything, because it is a pain to reinstall them. Again, my PC is only for gaming purposes. I want the best performance just for gaming. I don't care about anything else, right? So this is what I do to make it or squeeze out the most performance for my PC. Some of these things you might need for school or for whatever you might work. I don't know, but just do your own research on this. So these next few slides, you might have to rewind it because I made different cuts and I didn't have the correct video, but basically you go down to the bottom left and you go to apps and features to uninstall some of these features that are on your PC. As you can see here, these are just ones that, like, you know, snippet and cut and, you know, remote desktop. I don't need any of those. Also, OneDrive, sometimes it's stubborn to uninstall, so you have to open it up this way to uninstall it, as you can see what I did there. And then we're going to be continuing on to uninstall some of these other ones, and then going back to the other program you saw prior to me opening this to uninstall more of the Microsoft web store and some other applications there as well. So now that we are in auto runs, this program can make or break your PC. Okay, so you should just stick to the ones that I'm deleting or removing because these are the ones that will work on your PC. I would not recommend you do anything else or try to remove something else. Just follow what I do. Again, your PC will have probably more that you'll have to do research on because this is bare bones PC. I didn't install other services or other games or other things that you might use daily that might need to be enabled or there for it to work, right? This is just, you know, what I've done. So again, this is just something for you to learn what I'm deleting, and then you can do your own research based off of this, as well as, you know, tinker around as well. Again, a system restore point would be very good before you do any of this. Okay, so now we're going to be going on to step 10, which we're going to be talking about the registry. So my recording messed up, but we're going to be making a registry backup just in case you need to revert any of the registry edits you make after this. First, open up Registry Editor as an administrator by going to your Windows search box in the bottom left corner, typing it in, and running it as admin. Then go to the top left of the page, click File, and then Export. It will open up a new window. Name it and save it to a spot where you can remember if you need to restore your registry. Be very careful in Registry Editor. These settings can make or break your PC, where you would need to restore everything again. So just be careful. Next, we're wanting to go back to the legal gaming cheats folder, and there's going to be two folders in here. There's going to be .bat files, .registry files, and then .ps1 files. The .bat files, just right click, run them as admin. There's going to be one that stays open for a little while until it closes out by itself or says finished. But for the ps1 files, there's two of them in there. You're going to want to open it up a notepad, copy and paste this into PowerShell. And you're going to want to run PowerShell as an administrator, so that way you can get these commands to stick to your PC like so. So it doesn't show it there because, again, the recording messed up, but all you do is open PowerShell, run it as admin, copy and paste whatever was in the notepad into PowerShell, click enter, and then let it run its course. Same with this one. As you can see, I'm doing it again. Pasted it in there, it finished, exit out. So now that that's finished, I'm exiting out of the folder. I left the other one open up there because it's still going. Now we're on to the registry ones. All you have to do is just double click them and click yes and okay for all of them. There are a few of them that say enable and disable. You want to read them and you want to go research them to see if your PC and settings such as, you know, your graphics card, your CPU should have them on or off for better performance. Again, that's why there's an enable and a disable option. Most of the time, you want them disabled, but you can do your own research to see if you need it enabled. My system would like them disabled. So step 11 is Steam. I haven't done this personally, but it's good to bring it to attention because it does help out with your PC to make it run slightly better. Again, Steam, when it's opened or when you're playing a game through Steam, in the background, Steam stays open. This is a way to make sure it's minimal. So you can follow these steps right here if you want to, you know, proceed. I haven't done it yet, but it does help. Okay, now we're on to step 12, which is fine-tuning affinities. This is going to be a lengthy process, and hopefully I can get this covered in one take. But we're going to open up step 1 for MSI mode utility. Okay, so now that we're in MSI mode utility, we're gonna look on the right side where it says line-based MSI and MSIX. You want to look at which one's your graphics card and your Ethernet adapter and your USB, as well as just whatever the main devices are in your PC. You want to checkbox the MSI column for the ones that say MSI or MSIX. You have to have them check marked. The ones that you're not using, you can uncheck, but if it just says line-based, keep it unchecked. If you have line-based only, it doesn't say MSI on the right side, and you check it, it could brick your system. And then on the right side, the ones that you do check mark, select them at high mode, okay? When you select them at high mode, that means they're a good high priority right there. And then in the top right corner, click apply, okay? And then you can exit out of the program. Now we're gonna go to step 2. This is interrupt affinity policy. Now this one looks a little complicated. So let me explain what this is. Your CPU has cores. Each core is different, but I recommend you only do this if you have 8 performance cores and above. You'll need to do your own research on this because my PC is different from yours. So how cores are read are core 0 in the video here is actually core 1. So that's why it goes from core 0 to 7, because that's still 8 cores total. Each core is like a road or a lane on a highway. You want to put specific parts and devices on certain cores or lanes, so that way your PC can allow each core to process certain interrupts for that device or part to not have a traffic jam all in one core or one lane. Basically putting your devices and parts on separate lanes so that they don't get stuck all in one lane or one core for easier processing and lower latency. Now we're going to be opening up Device Manager because you don't know where or what your PC part is actually named. Because if you looked in the interrupt a policy program, some of them say HID device and controller and whatnot. So I'm going to just show you how you can find a specific device on your Device Manager, so that way you can select it and put it to a specific core. So as you can see there is the controller that controls all of the USB devices. So as you can see, they're the same. I'm going to set it. I selected it to core 5. So that controller is only on core 5 now. It's not going to be on core 1. It's going to be on core 5. So that way anything that is on core 1, which is usually Windows and, you know, all the actual system operating systems and stuff on core 1 and all the services, it's not going to be processed as much on there as it is going to be just mainly focused on core 5. So it's going to lower the latency for that. Now, here's another tip. If you go into your SSD, you can go and click into policies and double check both of those on. I don't show it right here. I show it towards the end of this scene, which we'll get back to later. Again, I'm just showing you kind of what I did and how you can, you know, select certain parts and put them on certain cores. I do recommend your GPU on the, you know, the last core, and then all your USB devices, such as your keyboard, your controller, and your mouse, all on one core. And then same if you have an internet card inside your PC, all on one core. Now we're going to go to the next step. So now go to the bottom search bar and type in msconfig. And this will open up. We want to go to services and hide all Microsoft services. So these are the services that are like programs that are running in the background. Just uncheck the ones that you do not need. Now go to startup, and these are whenever your PC boots up, what programs boot up automatically. I recommend you disable all of them or the ones that you don't need. Okay, so this is step 3. This is Process Lasso. I have the Pro version, which you have to purchase it, but I believe it works on outside the Pro version or the free version. So you want to import the configuration. It'll have the XLEK Process Lasso profile, which will be in the folder here. As you can see, it's right there. All you do is you just import it into Process Lasso, and everything should just work like it should. So as long as you just double click it and then open it, and then there you go. That's all you need to do. You can go down here and just make sure it's enhanced, and that's it. So now we're on to step 13, which is cleanup. This is where you're going to get rid of temporary files, registry cleanup, removing inactive devices, etc. So first we're going to create a restore point, and this is just ensures that we came this far and we don't want to mess up where it messes up our PC if we disable the wrong thing. So we created a restore point. Next, we're going to go back and we're going to go to step 2, and we are going to try to disable devices. So now that we're going to go to the bottom left, Windows search, type in device manager, and we scroll down and we see these yellow exclamation points. That means that it's not, the drivers aren't updated for those specific devices for your PC. Now those are motherboard drivers for specific, I don't know, like channels or different services that the motherboard uses to communicate with different parts on the PC. So since it didn't update prior or earlier in this video, I'm going to go to my motherboard's website and download the specific drivers. Yours are going to be on your specific driver's website. So again, this is just me showing that I'm fixing it for the video in the next few seconds or minutes, that they are fixed, and then we continue. So now that I installed the drivers, they're gone. Now we're going to go to step 2, and we're going to actually disable the devices in Device Manager that we do not need. These are devices that are just using up resources for our PC, causing stutters, causing issues that we do not want when we're gaming. Disabling these most likely will see minimal effect, but it is recommended by a lot of people, a lot of tweakers, I should say, that want the best out of the performance for PCs. Again, these devices, you should research each of them just to ensure that you're not actually using one for a specific thing that you might not, you don't know if it's actually being used or not. So again, these are the ones that most, I would say, tweakers disable because nobody uses these. Again, as you can see, I'm going through the list and I'm just disabling them. That's all you do. And you can see they get grayed out. Again, that's all you need to do. And you can, keep watching this to see what else I disable. But for the most part, the ones that are listed in the disable devices, those are the ones you want to do. So there are a few HD audio, different, I guess you could say, devices. I keep the one that is associated with my motherboard, the Realtek one, because those are the ones I'm using. But the one that is on my graphics card itself, there's a drop down for your graphics card HD audio. I do not use that, so that's the one I disable. So I just wanted to clear that up so that way you can see why I disable one and not the other. So as you can see, the screen has changed. I actually had to re-record this after I did some more things. So this is my actual device manager. These are all the different devices that are disabled. As you can see, the HD audio right there is still enabled. Those are the ones that are in the BIOS, the HD audio, the ports on the back of your motherboard, on the back of your computer. Right here, you can see the event timers. All those are disabled. You should disable those. The PCI Express ports, as you can see, there's no drop-down menu like this one with my Ethernet. The ones that are not in use, I disable them. As you can see here, that is my graphics card. The HD audio is the HDMI audio. I disable that because I do not use the HDMI audio. I use the one on the back of my motherboard. And same here, you can see some that are disabled. You can see my NVMe right there. You scroll down, you can see some of the ones that are listed in the text file that are disabled. And you can see as well the USBs that are disabled. Some of them, the HID, it shows a mouse and a keyboard there. You're gonna have duplicates. I only have one mouse and one keyboard, but the other ones that are disabled, those are just like extras. I just disable those. The RAID controller, I'm not sure why that is showing up for me. I might have been just messing with some settings a different time, but you can disable that. I'm gonna keep it open just because I don't use RAID. I doubt you use RAID either. And then I have a hard drive on my PC, so I have that enabled as well for a different one. Okay, so when we're still in Device Manager, find your SSD or your NVMe, like I'm doing there. Go to Properties and go up to Policy, and then make sure both of those are checked and click OK, and then you can exit out of that. Now we're going to be going over to Device Cleanup. When we run it as administrator, we're going to click Devices and remove all devices and exit out of that. It's very simple. Next, we're going to be going to step 2. We're going to double click on that and just make sure all those are turned off and apply. And go to step 3. I'm going to run that as administrator, apply that, exit out of that. Step 4. And then you're just going to want to watch what I do on the screen so that way you can see the settings I use and what I do next. So we're going to go to apps and features, and this is where you uninstall any programs or anything you're not using. Again, just double check that the things you're uninstalling don't have something to do with the other, right? Like if one client is an anti-cheat for that specific program or game, you don't want to delete the anti-cheat because obviously you're going to have to re-download it. Go to system components. So exile that and then go to see optional features. This is going to pull this up. You can delete whatever you want here. Again, do your own research, but these are the ones that I delete because I do not use them. Now click at the top right for more Windows features, and I believe that I disable most of these. I don't know off the top of my head what I disable and don't disable at the end of this specific section, but just follow what I disable and disable what you, and also, you know, what you think. But for the most part, I disable everything shown. Again, just if I leave one checked, that's for a reason. Then click OK, and then you should restart it. But again, I don't restart it for the sake of the video. And then we're just going to be going down all the Windows settings here and just making sure everything's basically turned off. Just also ensure that you don't turn off something that you use. Again, I keep saying this because I just use my PC for gaming. If you use it for certain different things, you might need some of these on. So again, just turn off what you would like. Most of the time, a lot of the stuff you don't even need. But again, do your own research, due diligence, so that way you don't accidentally turn something off that you really need. So now we're going to go to power options. And again, when we installed Process Lasso, it installed another power setting. And just to clean up the system a little more, because this is the cleanup step, we are just going to go back and, you know, basically wipe that one that was downloaded. We are going to continue to use my power plan that I customly made for y'all. So again, you can skip this step, but I just get rid of all the power settings because I only want one power setting there. I don't want something to revert it back to another one, or, you know, change it by accident or with an update, or, you know, whatever it might be. I rather just make it all one setting, right? So you obviously just follow the commands on the screen. If you remember earlier, there was specific steps in the power settings folder. So just follow those settings to disable that one, and then there you go. So now we're going to go to step 5, and we're going to install Cleaner Professional Setup. As you can see here, just follow what I do, install it, let it do its thing. Then check that and run the installer. Okay, now just start your trial. Not a big deal. We don't need the pro version. And then just follow the settings I use, and we'll do it from. So just check the settings I check, and then run the cleaner as what I show in the video. So now you want to click Analyze after you've selected everything. And then it's just going to show what the analysis completed was. And then you're going to run the cleaner and continue. And then it's going to take maybe a few minutes depending how congested your PC is. After it's finished, I'll show you what to do next. So next, what you could do is just exit out of that program. Once it's finished, we're going to go back, go to step 6. And we are going to click the top one and we're going to delete temporary files. Double click that and continue. Click the top one, shift click to the bottom. Click delete, go back, next one, double click, continue, top one, shift click, delete, next one, shift click, delete, continue, and that just removed a lot of your temporary files. You can exit out of that. Now type in apps and features again, and then you can uninstall the programs again. I believe we've already done this in a previous step, but we just uninstalled the C cleaner that we just had. Again, you can keep it and from time to time do those cleanups, but again, I don't need it because I'm not downloading anything. So again, there you go. And then we are going to go on to the next step. So we are going to go backtrack a little bit and go to telemetry and then go to auto runs. We're going to open that as an admin again. And this is at the very end after you've downloaded everything. And some of the services that you've, I guess, programs you've installed or services you've installed might get checked back on. So I turn off Google. Again, I can't really get into all the technicalities of why you do this, but basically things run in the background. You want to turn them off. And some of the stuff that you've downloaded might, stay on. So you just want to turn the ones off that you don't use all the time. I don't really need Google Updater. As you can see here, there's some other programs. When it gets to process lasso, you want to disable the console. You want to keep the governor online. So as you can see there, the one with the green icon right there, the console, I disable that. And then the other one right below it, 2 down, we disable that as well. But in the services area where it says process governor, you want to keep that on. So when you use process lasso, there's the console, the actual application that opens, and then there's the governor in the background, the services. You want the service to run so that way the profile sticks and runs while the console is not open, right? So you don't want your PC to load the console and the governor because the console is what, eats up your latency and whatnot. So just do what I do. Again, you should just follow the ones that I use here if you're going to want the best performance. Again, some services you might need for your specific system, and you can use ChatGPT or join some groups to see, if you need them on for specific things. And, these are the ones that I turn off because I'm perfectly set. Again, these are just my settings and you can kind of, just go from there. But again, don't turn off any Microsoft ones. That can brick your system where you're going to have to redo everything. Okay, so I couldn't re-record this. I just wanted to put this out there. So number 14, tests and extra. Those are going to be benchmarking tools and other programs that you could use to benchmark your system. It might have some other programs in there, such as XLEK that I have used that does lower your ping a little bit. Again, there's just some other programs in there. These are just for you to look into if you want to utilize them. For Fix is a GP edit policy BAT file. So if you can't open your Ethernet adapter settings or you can't open registry, just run that. You double click it and run it as administrator, and that should fix it. You might have to restart your PC. The monitor folder, that is for your monitor settings. You're gonna have to look into that. I haven't done it, but it can break your monitor. This helps you overclock your monitor or make it perfect in a refresh rate or a millisecond from what I've understood. Again, I'm not really heavily educated on that topic, but I downloaded it and put it in there just so you guys can have that if you want to look into more things, right? I just want to provide the knowledge that I have, and then you guys can go off of that. Okay, so now we're going to be going on to the Marvel Rivals settings. And then we are going to head over to Steam. We're going to go to settings in the top left. And then we're going to just go through this and turn off the settings that I have on screen. Again, do your own research, but these are the settings that give me less notifications and less incoming maybe auto updates and such. So I turn off basically everything. When you get down to the in-game setting on the left-hand side of the screen for Steam settings, almost there. Under cloud, I have cloud turned off. For in-game settings, the top one, the very, very top one, if you're trying to purchase in-game currency through Marvel Rivals, you have to turn that on, okay? So at the very top, you have to have that on in order for you to purchase the currency in-game. You can turn it off once you purchase it though. So again, I don't know anything about controllers, but I have all this turned off. I have recording off. And obviously voice is just normal. Remote play, I turn that off. Broadcast is not there. And then I just exit out of that. Next, click on Marvel Rivals, go to the Manage button, and then go to Properties. And then under General, the launch options, this will be in the description below. Copy and paste that into this launch option because it should help your game run smoother or, you know, allow it to boot up a certain way. Again, people say it doesn't work. It works. I do it just as, you know, in case. If you have issues with your game, go to installed files and then verify the integrity of the game and let that load and everything is good to go. And that's it. Okay, now we're going to be looking at the settings here. Under display, we're going to go to display mode. It's going to be full screen, aspect ratio 16:9, resolution 1920x1080, anti-aliasing is off, render scaling is at 100%, frame generation mode is off, low latency mode is Nvidia Reflex low latency, brightness is whatever you'd like, but I have it at 80. Now trust me on this, turn on limit FPS and cap it at whatever your monitor's refresh rate is. My monitor is 240, so I capped it at 240. You can show FPS and network stats, turn off VSync, and then scroll down under graphics, turn everything to off, performance, and then low. So that concludes the video. I appreciate everybody that has stuck this far, but I want to leave you with two last things. First is Ethernet. So if you're using wired connection, please make sure you're using a high quality Ethernet cable. A wired Ethernet cable from Amazon is perfectly fine. Just make sure it's a very reputable seller. Make sure it's a high quality cable and you're good to go. Cat 6, 7 and above, that's good. If you're using an internet connection, again, Wi-Fi is not going to give you the same results as wired. So again, wired, way better. Please use wired. If you do have a router and you are using wireless, even if you're using wired, make sure you look into the specific settings for your router because you might be able to have a gaming mode to, you know, put aside part of your internet just for your computer, your gaming session. So that way nothing interrupts that, such as QoS on your router. Again, you might need to update your router as well. So the firmware on your router, that might help your internet a little better. And another thing is that for your mouse and keyboard, sometimes it comes with a program such as Logitech G Pro or Razer Synapse to control like your DPI and mouse polling rates. I recommend that you have a minimum of 1,000 polling rate for your mouse and a minimum of 1600 DPI for your mouse as well. Again, pros use 800 DPI, that's fine, but I prefer 1600 and I've always used 1600 and I will always recommend 1600. I believe the best is 2000, but 1600 is very minimal difference. It's not worth for me to change. 1600 DPI, 1000 polling rate, and you're good to go. And make sure it's not running in the background because it uses up a lot of memory and a lot of resources for your PC. So onboard memory manager for your mouse and keyboard. Okay, so now we're going to show you the DPC latency, the after benchmark of everything we've done, and we've gotten it to 0.4. If I turn off the OBS recording, it's actually a 0.37, 0.36. So we've lowered it tremendously, and that is definitely going to make your system feel a lot snappier, a lot better. And I hope this has helped you. Again, these are just the settings that I did to my PC. I do recommend you look into specific settings for your PC and your components, but for the most part, a lot of the settings that I'm using are good for your PC. For the overclocking, not so much. You will have to do your own research for that specific portion because I don't know your temperatures. I don't know your clock rates. I don't know how many cores you have. I don't know your RAM setup. I don't know any of that. You will have to do that your own. But for everything else, just try to follow the video, ask a question in the comments below. And if you haven't joined the Discord, look in the description below. You can join the Discord and I might be able to help you out there. But again, just make sure this is, this is educational purposes only. So just do your due diligence and hopefully everything works out for you. And that is it. Thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you.